In 524 AD, the Roman philosopher Boethius was executed by order of Theodoric the Great, the Ostrogoth king. His crime, a false charge of treason. Yet, in the solitude of his imprisonment, Boethius penned one of the most profound works of the early Middle Ages, the Consolation of Philosophy. This text would go on to inspire generations, bridging the fading wisdom of ancient Rome with the emerging medieval world. Meanwhile, in Visigothic Spain, another towering figure was working to safeguard the knowledge of ancient Rome. Isidore of Seville, a bishop and scholar, dedicated his life to the preservation of classical texts and the education of future generations through his monastic education system. His encyclopedic work, Etymologia, gathered vast amounts of knowledge from the ancient world and became the medieval equivalent of a library, ensuring that wisdom from the past would be passed down to those who came after. But Boethius and Isidore were not alone in this quest. In distant corners of Europe, other brilliant minds, such as Alcuin of York and the Venerable Bede, were quietly shaping the intellectual future of medieval Europe. Their works, as we'll see, would leave a lasting legacy on the path of European thought. As we step into the final days of ancient Rome, two figures stand out, not as warriors or rulers, but as intellectual giants whose work would shape the course of European thought, Boethius and Cassiodorus. Both men witnessed the dramatic transformation of the Roman Empire as it fell under the control of the Ostrogoths, but their contributions to the preservation and transmission of knowledge ensured that Rome's intellectual legacy would live on through the medieval world. Boethius, born into an aristocratic Roman family, enjoyed a prestigious position in the court of the Ostrogothic king, Theodoric the Great. Educated in the traditions of ancient Rome, Boethius was a scholar, philosopher, and statesman. His early works focused on logic, mathematics, and translations of Aristotle, efforts that were pivotal in preserving the core of classical thought. However, it is during his imprisonment, following false charges of treason, that Boethius composed his most enduring work, the Consolation of Philosophy. Written as a dialogue between Boethius and Lady Philosophy, the text delves into some of the most profound questions of the human condition. How can we find meaning in life amid suffering and misfortune? What is the nature of happiness, and can we achieve it through earthly means? These reflections, steeped in both Roman and Christian ideas, resonated with medieval thinkers who were grappling with their own uncertain world. The Consolation of Philosophy became a cornerstone of medieval scholarship, offering not only solace to generations of readers, but also serving as a bridge between the philosophical traditions of ancient Rome and the emerging Christian intellectual tradition. While Boethius contemplated the deeper questions of fate and human existence, Cassiodorus turned his attention to the practical task of safeguarding the intellectual heritage of Rome. Born into a noble family and serving as an official under Theodoric, Cassiodorus played a key role in managing the remnants of the Roman administration under Gothic rule. However, it is his later life, after he retired from politics, that marked his greatest contribution to history. With the collapse of the Roman Empire, Cassiodorus recognized that the treasures of classical thought were in danger of being lost. He withdrew from public life and founded the Vivarium, a monastic community in southern Italy, with the express purpose of preserving and copying ancient texts. In a time of turmoil, when invasions and societal upheaval threatened to erase centuries of intellectual progress, Cassiodorus saw monastic communities as the ideal institutions for safeguarding the wisdom of the ancients. His vision of monastic education, where monks not only prayed but also studied and copied manuscripts, became the model for monasteries throughout medieval Europe. Through his influence, the practice of manuscript copying spread, ensuring that the philosophical, scientific, and theological works of ancient Rome would survive. Cassiodorus's legacy, much like that of Boethius, was the preservation of classical texts that would otherwise have been lost to time. He also emphasized the importance of integrating classical knowledge with Christian teachings, ensuring that the two intellectual traditions would continue to coexist and influence one another throughout the Middle Ages. The works copied and studied in monastic scriptoria became the foundation upon which medieval universities would later build. While Boethius used his imprisonment to reflect on the nature of life and death, Cassiodorus used his freedom to create an enduring system that would carry Roman knowledge forward into the future. Together, they represent the last great minds of ancient Rome, standing at the threshold of a new era, one defined by both continuity and change. As the Western Roman Empire crumbled and new powers rose, the preservation of its knowledge rested on the shoulders of men like Boethius and Cassiodorus. Their efforts ensured that the intellectual legacy of ancient Rome would not fade, but the work of safeguarding and expanding this heritage didn't stop in Italy. Across the Mediterranean, in the kingdom of the Visigoths, another remarkable figure was preparing to carry this torch forward: Isidore of Seville. While Boethius and Cassiodorus had laid the groundwork for preserving classical texts, it was Isidore of Seville who took up the task of consolidating and organizing that knowledge in a way that would guide future generations. Born into an era of transformation, Isidore's life and work represent a crucial link between the fading world of classical antiquity and the emerging medieval order. Where Boethius reflected on philosophy and Cassiodorus turned to the monastery to preserve Roman texts, Isidore was concerned with something broader, ensuring that the vast body of classical and Christian knowledge was not only preserved, but also accessible to the wider world. In the kingdom of the Visigoths, Isidore would become a monumental figure in monastic education and the preservation of classical texts, laying the intellectual foundations for medieval Spain and beyond. His work, especially the Encyclopedic Etymologiae, would become one of the most widely read books of the Middle Ages. But what made Isidore's contributions truly transformative was his ability to bridge the gap between the ancient and medieval worlds, much like Boethius and Cassiodorus before him. Isidore of Seville, also known by his Latin name Isidorus Hispalensis, was a distinguished Hispano-Roman scholar, theologian, and archbishop who lived from around 560 until his death on April 4, 636. He is remembered as one of the last great minds of the ancient world, significantly influencing the intellectual and cultural development of early medieval Spain. Born in Cartagena to a noble family, Isidore received his early education from his elder brother Leander, a highly regarded bishop. This close family relationship deeply shaped Isidore's lifelong dedication to learning and the Christian faith. Around the year 600 CE, Isidore succeeded his brother Leander as the Archbishop of Seville. He played a central role in converting the Arian Visigoths to Chalcedonian Christianity, working in concert with Visigothic rulers to foster religious unity in a kingdom often divided between Arianism and Catholicism. Isidore was actively involved in various church councils, most notably the Councils of Toledo, which helped define church policies and strengthen the alignment between the monarchy and the church. His most renowned work, Etymologiae, is an encyclopedic collection that spans a wide range of subjects such as grammar, rhetoric, law, medicine, and theology. It became a vital resource for medieval scholars and was widely used as a reference and educational text for many centuries. Isidore was a fervent proponent of education. He promoted the establishment of schools and called for seminaries in every diocese, ensuring that the clergy received adequate instruction. His efforts aimed to preserve the remnants of classical knowledge, which were under threat during the turmoil of barbarian invasions. Thanks to his initiatives, much of ancient learning was safeguarded, earning Isidore the title the schoolmaster of the Middle Ages. His works laid the groundwork for the educational frameworks of medieval Europe. In recognition of his immense contributions to learning and scholarship, Isidore was canonized by the Catholic Church in 1598 and is honored as the patron saint of various groups, including farmers, underscoring his enduring influence in the promotion of knowledge. Isidore passed away on April 4, 636, after more than 30 years of service as an archbishop. His legacy persisted, shaping religious thought and educational practices well beyond his lifetime across medieval Europe. In conclusion, Isidore of Seville was a critical figure in the history of early medieval Spain. His scholarly achievements and dedication to education played a key role in preserving ancient knowledge while helping to bring about unity in a time of religious and cultural change. Isidore of Seville, through his tireless dedication to monastic education and the preservation of classical texts, ensured that the knowledge of ancient Rome not only survived but flourished in the early medieval world. His work provided a foundation that would resonate far beyond Visigothic Spain, spreading throughout Europe as monasteries became centers of learning. Isidore's efforts to compile and organize the wisdom of antiquity laid the groundwork for the intellectual revival that was to come. But as the legacy of Rome echoed across the continent, new leaders and scholars in distant lands took up the mantle. In the courts of Charlemagne and the monasteries of Anglo-saxon England, two men would emerge as key figures in the next phase of this intellectual journey: Alcuin of York and the Venerable Bede. Isidore's encyclopedic knowledge reached the farthest corners of Christendom, inspiring scholars like Alcuin, who played a pivotal role in the Carolingian Renaissance, revitalizing learning across Western Europe. And in Northumbria, Bede, known for his ecclesiastical history of the English people, would become a symbol of Anglo-Saxon scholarship, preserving both history and theology for future generations. These scholars, like Isidore, drew upon the ancient knowledge safeguarded by Boethius and Cassiodorus, but they went further, transforming it into something new, something that would light the path for medieval Europe. Join us now as we turn to the lives of Alcuin of York and the Venerable Bede, two scholars who helped usher in a new era of learning, bringing the wisdom of Rome into the heart of medieval Christendom. The Anglo-Saxon period was not only marked by political struggles and military campaigns, but also by remarkable intellectual and scholarly achievements. Two of the most prominent figures who played crucial roles in shaping the religious and intellectual landscape of early medieval England were the Venerable Bede and Alcuin of York. Their works laid the foundation for medieval scholarship and greatly influenced the cultural and spiritual development of Anglo-Saxon England and beyond. In this chapter, we will explore the lives, contributions, and legacies of these two towering figures. The Venerable Bede, often referred to simply as Bede, was born around 673 AD in the Kingdom of Northumbria, one of the most powerful and culturally rich kingdoms of Anglo-Saxon England. At the age of 7, he was sent to Monk Wearmouth Jarrow Abbey, a twin monastery led by Abbot Benedict Biscop, where he was educated and would remain for most of his life. The monastery housed a vast library filled with Latin texts, including works of theology, history, and classical authors, providing Bede with the intellectual resources that would shape his scholarship. Bede became a monk, theologian, historian, and teacher, and he spent his life studying, writing, and teaching within the monastery. He was ordained as a deacon at the age of 19 and a priest at 30, which was a testament to his early display of deep learning and piety. Bede's most famous work, Ecclesiastical History of the English People, written in 731 AD, is a monumental achievement that offers a comprehensive history of the Christianization of England and the early Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. Divided into 5 books, Bede's history traces the origins of Christianity in Britain from the time of Roman occupation to the missionary efforts of St. Augustine of Canterbury, who arrived in 597 AD under the orders of Pope Gregory the Great. Key features of the ecclesiastical history. Bede details the conversion of the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, including the pivotal role of King Ethelbert of Kent, who embraced Christianity following the mission of St. Augustine. He chronicles the establishment of monasteries, bishoprics, and the spread of Christian learning across England. His work provides accounts of key figures in English Christianity, such as St. Aidan, Cuthbert, and Wilfrid, highlighting their contributions to the growth of the Church. Bede's work also discusses significant political events, making it one of the earliest examples of integrating secular and ecclesiastical history in Western historiography. Bede's history is also famous for popularizing the AD Anno Domini dating system, which remains in use today. His meticulous attention to detail, his use of sources, and his commitment to presenting an accurate and comprehensive history have earned him the title of the Father of English History. Born around 735 AD, the same year Bede completed his great work, Alcuin of York was another towering figure in Anglo-Saxon intellectual life. Alcuin grew up in the Kingdom of Northumbria, a region known for its scholarly centres. He was educated at the renowned York Cathedral School, where he studied under Archbishop Ecgbert and Elbert, who had established York as a centre of learning, particularly in theology and the liberal arts. Alcuin became a monk, scholar, teacher and poet, and by the mid-8th century he had risen to the position of headmaster of the York Cathedral School. The school at York housed a library containing classical and theological works, and under Alcuin's guidance, it became one of the most prestigious educational institutions in England. Alcuin's intellectual reputation spread across Europe, and in 781 AD, while on a diplomatic mission in Italy, he met Charlemagne, the king of the Franks. Charlemagne invited Alcuin to join his court as a teacher and scholar. Alcuin accepted and became one of the leading figures in the Carolingian Renaissance, a revival of learning and culture initiated by Charlemagne's court. At Charlemagne's court, Alcuin was responsible for reforming education, overseeing the development of monastic and cathedral schools, and promoting the study of grammar, rhetoric, astronomy, theology, and scripture. He played a crucial role in standardizing Latin as the language of scholarship and helped establish a scriptorium to copy and preserve important manuscripts. Alcuin's influence on Carolingian reforms extended beyond education. He advised Charlemagne on matters of religious policy and moral conduct, promoting the revival of monastic discipline and the reform of the Frankish Church. Alcuin also contributed to the development of Carolingian minuscule, a clear and legible script that allowed for the efficient copying of texts and became the foundation of modern Western script. Some of Alcuin's key contributions include his promotion of classical learning at the court of Charlemagne, helping to preserve and transmit ancient knowledge during a time when much of Europe was in turmoil. His role in the production and dissemination of Christian texts, which were copied in large numbers in the Carolingian scriptoria. His authorship of numerous theological treatises, letters and poems, many of which survive today as reflections on monastic life, Christian virtues and education. In 796 AD, Alcuin retired to the Abbey of St. Martin in Tours, where he continued to write and teach until his death in 804 AD. Even in retirement, Alcuin's influence was profound. He helped shape the next generation of scholars and religious leaders. His ideas on education and religious reform endured throughout the medieval period and became an integral part of the intellectual fabric of Western Europe. Alcuin's role in the Carolingian Renaissance was critical in bridging the intellectual worlds of Anglo-Saxon England and continental Europe. His work in education, language, and theology ensured that the achievements of the Greco-Roman world were passed on to future generations. While both Bede and Alcuin were key figures in Anglo-Saxon intellectual life, they worked in very different contexts. Bede remained in Northumbria for his entire life, dedicating himself to the monastic life and the task of chronicling the history of Christianity in England. His works reflect a deep engagement with Christian history and scholarly rigor within a strictly ecclesiastical framework. Alcuin, on the other hand, became an international figure, leaving England to serve at the court of Charlemagne. His work was broader, focusing on the revival of learning, educational reform, and the establishment of Christian culture in the broader context of Carolingian Europe. Together, these two figures represent the heights of Anglo-Saxon scholarship and the transmission of knowledge during the early medieval period. Bede's historical works provided a foundation for understanding the development of Christian England, while Alcuin's educational reforms ensured that learning and scholarship would continue to flourish across Europe. The legacies of Bede and Alcuin are profound. They both contributed to the preservation and transmission of knowledge during a period often seen as intellectually dark. Through their work, they laid the foundations for the medieval intellectual revival, influencing monastic education, Christian scholarship, and the overall cultural development of medieval Europe. Bede's focus on history and theology ensured that the Anglo-Saxon past would be remembered and celebrated, while Alcuin's efforts in education and language reform extended the reach of Anglo-Saxon learning far beyond England. Together, they helped define the intellectual legacy of the Anglo-Saxon period, and their contributions resonate even today. As we wrap up our journey through the lives of Boethius, Alcuin, Isidore of Seville and others, it's important to remember that we've only scratched the surface of the incredible minds that shaped the early Middle Ages. While we've focused on these towering figures, many others played equally important roles in preserving and transforming the intellectual heritage of ancient Rome. One such figure is Gregory of Tours, whose writings offer invaluable insights into the early Frankish Empire. We'll be diving into his story and the rise of the Franks in a future episode, so be sure to stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed exploring this chapter of history with us, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to leave a comment below. What other scholars or topics would you like us to cover? And if you want to join a community of history lovers like yourself, check out our Facebook group where we dive deeper into discussions about the Middle Ages, share resources, and connect with fellow enthusiasts. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.